If I'm Ruben, then you Clay Aiken, but second place gets nothing. So get up at this godforsaken booth. The truth is you sadly mistaken. Proof I'm better than layman. Shoot, I'm super.
When we was Kangs, man. When we was Kangs. All right, I'm not as great as the Big E victory was. It was a fantastic moment. You know, the crowd erupted and everything. Us over here in the Hurt Business corner, that's not necessarily in the New Day corner, got to be pretty pulverized at this point. There's so much that was left out on the table for Lashley, and then it's not really looking good in the future. It's not looking good because it's just rematches and Goldberg from this point out. There's really no plan after that for Lashley, and that's kind of disappointing, you know. But let's talk about Lashley for a minute. So for his last maybe couple of months, they really did a good job of really trying to get Lashley over as an unstoppable, unbeatable monster. After he did the silly job to Xavier Woods, he just pulverized guys. He absolutely destroyed Kofi Kingston. He didn't destroy Goldberg. He kind of got busy on Randy. You know, he threw Randy through that table. So they really did a good job of raising his stock afterwards. But before he really kind of snapped on the New Day, that roller coaster, that constant up and down of, you know, he's losing by a roll up. He's looking embarrassed. They put him on the show at 8:45 or something silly like that. It was a lot of stuff that was going on. I didn't really care for, and I think it took away from his title run. And I'm still not a fan of how he lost the title. You know, a guy like Lashley losing the way that he did, it's Money in the Bank shenanigans, man. That's the only part of it. Look, I'm okay with him losing clean if that's what it was going to be. If you was going to put Lashley in the ring, Big E on the other side of the ring, Big E is the right guy. I maintain that Big E is the right guy to go over in that situation if you're trying to make him, which is what they're doing. But the situation and where they created is instead of having Lashley versus Randy Orton, they should have just said Big E is cashing in his Money in the Bank briefcase tonight. That's the main event. And did that match. And then Big E just wins. You know, and then they could have told the story throughout the night. And you could have made it like the swan song of the New Day. Or not the New Day, but the Hurt Business. Where you throughout the night you have the Hurt Business, you know, floating around one another, kind of mocking one another, as if Lashley is scared of Big E and scared of this challenge. While on the other side, you got the New Day being super supportive and, you know, bigging each other up. And because they kind of did that when you had, you know, Kofi saying, "Look, you don't need my advice, man. You got this. You're ready to be the face of the company. You got this." And on the other hand, you could have had, you know, MVP and Lashley doing the same thing. And then with the occasional come in from Cedric Alexander, who says, like, you know, "I hope you lose," you know, like, you deserve to lose. And then they have the match one-on-one straight up, and Big E wins. You know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, however much longer it could have been. I would have been perfectly fine with that. I would have rather he go out there on his shield like a warrior should, rather than, oh, we're going to take him to the highest peak where he beats Randy Orton. Didn't beat him clean, by the way, but beat Randy Orton. Then he decimates Riddle, then decimates Orton, and then Big E cashes in the Money in the Bank. It was kind of like, wow. And then he was kind of hurt too. Like, I think he had hurt his leg earlier in the night. Earlier in the night he had hurt his leg, and I was just kind of like, man, it just feels like there was a lot of meat left on the bone when it comes to Lashley. That there was still so much more there, and near the end, they tried. You know, they gave him the Goldberg win when he kind of literally stopped Goldberg. Gave him the Orton win. Gave him the crushing of Kofi Kingston. But most of his title run was Lashley being secondary to McIntyre or something else that he was doing. And I don't necessarily like that. I don't necessarily like how the run was going. And it feels like the run was finally getting solid. Of course, we hit the skids with the Goldberg thing because now you have Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. We'll be talking about that in a second, though. But it just seemed to me that Lashley was barely getting started. Like he was barely scratching the surface of what he really can do as the champion and how far he really can go. But the show around him had gotten so damn stale because they really weren't doing anything with anyone else. It needed a jolt of energy. And the only way to do that is to bring somebody in from the outside. And that's what they ended up doing when they ended up bringing Big E onto Raw, reuniting the New Day they reunited the New Day. They killed the Hurt Business, dead as a doorknob. They don't even get to interact with each other anymore. They reunited the New Day, which that shit is beyond me. I can't believe they did this. In any event, to me it was a good run while it lasted. I'm more of a Lashley fan than a Big E fan, so to me it was kind of like it was anticlimactic, mainly because not only was we told essentially in the middle of the day on Monday that, oh yeah, Big E's going to win the championship, which is okay, that's a story beat. Doesn't necessarily have to happen, and it's not necessarily guaranteed that when he cashes in his Money in the Bank, he's going to win. Not necessarily guaranteed. But throughout the night, there was no twists and turns. There was no attempt to stop Big E from cashing in his Money in the Bank. Lashley didn't attack him in the back and hit him in the head with a briefcase or something like that. MVP wasn't scheming against him, trying to stop this whole ordeal. And that's what you would think would happen when you have characters like this. That, you got this guy who's threatening to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, that Lashley would go ahead and take care of that problem. And, even if he just did nothing but put him in the hurt lock for 10 minutes until he couldn't move his arms, at least to add some drama to that whole ordeal. Or you could have had MVP scheming. He could have hired some goons to beat up Big E earlier in the night since he's here and steal the Money in the Bank or something like that. And you could have told that story throughout the night. They could have done something where it seemed like, Lashley and MVP actually tried to stop it. Rather than they just went about their business, which is perfectly fine, but they went about their business, handled the Randy Orton problem, and then the Big East thing just sprung on him, like he hadn't been there all night. So that was that was the thing that kind of messed with me. I'm like, that doesn't really go to MVP's character because he's a schemer, he's a planner. He would understand this. He would have had a plan the moment Big E said that he's going to be on Raw. It should have been a plan to prevent this from happening. And the fact that they didn't have a plan really kind of bothers me. Now, they did do a good job of getting rid of MVP by having him catch an RKO from Randy Orton on the floor. So it's like, okay, he's not going to be involved in the finish because he took an RKO on the floor. He's kind of in a manager position at this point, so he's not going to have wrestler recovery. There's referee recovery in WWE where if you bump a referee, you might as well get a stretcher because they're pretty much dead. Then there's manager recovery where they take a bump. They're okay, but they're not exactly dead. And then there's wrestler recovery where they take 100 bumps and they get up. No problem. So MVP is kind of going down to manager recovery where he takes a big move and he's pretty much out for the rest of the time. But there was no second gear to cause and create drama for this moment. They created weakness in Lashley, not just by him having a whole match, but because he took an RKO earlier in the night. He took an RKO in that match, and then he wrestled a whole match, and then he injured his leg. So they tried to create all of these little nuggets of doubt that, to create these little nuggets of weakness, I should say, so that when he does lose, he's got 100 excuses why he lost. Oh, he lost because he had to wrestle a match. He lost because, he injured his leg, destroying Randy Orton, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, man, it's all just excuse for the rematches. That's really all it is. And I'm guessing that's what they're going to do until the draft. They're going to do Lashley, Big E rematches until the draft. And now the future, that's the immediate future. But of course, you got to think about the Saudi show because Goldberg still wants Lashley. Now it's personal between the two of them. It's not involved in the title. That means Lashley's gonna have to go do a job to Goldberg in Saudi Arabia in the middle of it might be after his rematch, but it's still not good. You know, it's still not good because that means he'll be. How are we gonna rebuild him at that point? Because it's like if you take the time to rebuild Lashley for the rematches. Let's say you do something like he goes in there and he beats up Ricochet, he beats up John Morrison for the next 2 weeks or something like that. Then he obviously loses to Big E in the rematch, and then he goes to Saudi and loses to Goldberg. Then you have to rebuild him again, or do you even bother? Because at that point, he would have already lost his rematch to Big E, and then what? Then what? What do we do then? It's to move the entire Hurt Business stealthily to SmackDown. And you have the Hurt Business and the Bloodline. And to me, if they do that, it will salvage this whole ordeal. Is you can have Lashley and Roman. But Lashley being the babyface. And I think that could work. I think that if you need somebody for Roman to fight after Brock, then, or, before Brock, however they're going to do that. I think Lashley being in that spot is a great piece. Now, MVP as a babyface, I don't know about that, which is kind of like my issue is I don't know about MVP and Lashley as the babyfaces, but I think they would have to be because I believe that, I guess in this scenario, if it was to be Lashley and Paul versus MVP and Lashley. No, what I say? I said Lashley and Paul. Roman and Paul and MVP and Lashley. I'm guessing MVP and Lashley would end up being the heels because there's still a lot of people who like Roman. So I would think that Lashley would be the heel in that situation. But you can book them as the baby faces, however you want to do that. But I like the idea of reforming the Hurt Business to fight the Bloodline. I love that idea. And then you could also add new characters, like they might add, let's say they add Naomi to the Bloodline. Then you could add a female to the Hurt Business, maybe Mia Yim. She hasn't done anything in a while. And then you could have that feud going into the Rumble or something like that. That's the only chance we got of saving this whole thing, is hopefully that the Hurt Business can be reinflated on SmackDown and get another run. But I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't know what they plan. The plan after Goldberg is probably just a morass of random squash matches or random do-nothing matches or, for heaven's sake, random rematches with Big E where he loses 100 times or something like that. I don't like it. I'm trying to be positive, okay? The power of positivity. They reformed the New Day, so hopefully they can reform the Hurt Business, at least on SmackDown, at least add Cedric Alexander to the group. Maybe you don't want the whole Hurt Business back, at least add Cedric Alexander. Now, there was some articles that was floating around where Lashley talked about how badly he wanted to bring Apollo Crews into the Hurt Business. Since Apollo Crews is on SmackDown, why not? Why not reform the Hurt Business in a different form with the original of guys that they wanted? They wanted Apollo Crews from the beginning, move them to SmackDown, and bring Apollo Crews in. And then he comes with Commander Aziz. And then that's the new Hurt Business. Leave Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander on Raw. Reform the Hurt Business with Apollo Crews and Commander Aziz. And that can be your stable against the Bloodline. There's a lot of options out there that I'm pretty sure they're not going to do. So I'm wasting my breath. But I'm grasping at something because I don't want this really to end this way. And I don't want him to end up like Jinder Mahal. Because it's sad what they've done to Jinder. Like, he has a stable of guys, but they just get bounced around like ping pong balls. They don't win anything. They don't say anything. They don't do anything. They just go out there and catch claymores every week. It's stupid, you know? And Lashley deserves to go out better than that. And it seems like that's in his future. Of course, it's to do a lot of jobs for guys who beat him or he beat before. So I'm really already clenching my teeth on he's going to have to lose the rematch to establish Big E as the guy. Then he's going to have to lose the Goldberg match. All right. You know, that will get us to the draft. You know, that will get us to the draft. And hopefully, after the draft, we can move Lashley and MVP to SmackDown, where they can start building the story of Lashley and MVP versus Roman and Paul. And that will be fun. For me, that's fun. Even if Lashley loses, I want to see it, you know, because it seemed like it would be a really great match. And it would be a really fun time. And it's fresh. I don't think I've ever seen Lashley wrestle Roman. And I don't think they've wrestled. If they have wrestled, they haven't wrestled a lot. So it's something fresh for Roman. It's something fresh for Lashley. Who's the babyface? Who's the heel? We can toggle that in the air. But we just need to get there. But we got to get Lashley through the Big E situation, which is going to be a bunch of losses, and through the Goldberg thing, which is another loss. I need to look beyond that. Okay, I got to look beyond that. It's going to be difficult. So it's going to be a difficult run for those of us who are more in the Hurt Business camp than people in the New Day camp. They're happy. You know, 2/3 of the New Day became WWE champion. It's likely that a Xavier Woods will probably win the King of the Ring because they're pretty much bringing the tournament back because he's been begging them to bring it back. And for us over here in the Hurt Business corner, we kind of looking like, damn, we can't even get a secondary push out of this thing. We can't even get them to push Cedric in this whole ordeal. He's running around chasing the 24/7 title. Speaking of which, you know, since I didn't talk about it in my Big E video, the 24/7 title situation, it seems as if we're doing something where Drake Maverick is a Bond villain who is putting together plans to capture Reginald in the 24/7 title, which on its face could be fun. You know, that could be fun. I just have a problem with the people who are involved. If R-Truth and Akira Tozawa and a bunch of other people like Drew Gulak that we don't care about, sure, they can do it. But when you start having Jeff Hardy involved, when Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo are involved, you know, it's only because I think they have potential. And Cedric Alexander, who also has potential, even though his voice is annoying as hell. And I think that's part of his potential is that his voice is annoying as hell. It cracks and shit, you know? Like, that's a unique speaking voice. When you have people who have potential that are involved with this crap, I'm not a fan. But Drake Maverick as, you know, this suited up Bond villain who's trying to steal the 24/7 title from Reginald, I'm 100% okay with that. Just get Cedric Alexander out of it. Shelton Benjamin too, get him out of it. You know, hopefully we can get our, you know, but we at a loss, man. We're taking L's here. The New Day get whatever the fuck they want. Well, we just have to sit here and be like, Cedric's chasing the 24/7 title, and Shelton Benjamin is like doing jobs on Main Event, and now Lashley about to start doing jobs for the next 3 fucking weeks or something like that. It's not about to be a fun time. It ain't about to be fun at all. So hopefully a move to SmackDown can revitalize the Hurt Business. That's my goal. That's my hope, is that, you know, we could be Kangs again. Maybe we won't beat Roman, but at least we can get that run. We can get, like, you know, maybe a month or two of a run with Lashley and Roman at the top, going into the Rumble or something like that. That would be great. You know, that would be fun. But not looking forward to this Goldberg thing, dog. That's gonna be bad. Not. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Like, share, subscribe. I'll end up talking to you guys later.
Skin tone, so why attach yourself and piggyback the wealth you didn't earn or lack yourself? I'm telling you to own up to your own success and failures. It's a reason why these sleazy